My name is Rena Vanzo. I'm the manager of the genetic counseling team here at Lineagen. There are 3 of us who are full-time genetic counselors here. We are licensed and certified, licensed in the state of Utah, and actually there are about 10 other states who require licensure as well. We do have that certification. And then also all 3 of us are members of a professional society called the National Society of Genetic Counselors, and they collaborate with the American Board of Genetic Counseling to provide a certification exam. So every genetic counselor has to pass their board exam to be considered a competent genetic counselor. We also have about 3 consulting genetic counselors, so they will help for various items. If there's a genetic counseling policy we need to make and we need to bring in folks who have different experiences, maybe someone who works in a prenatal genetic setting, someone who works in adult or neurology genetic setting. So we have a variety of consultants who we can reach out to who are trusted, who also have the certification and training that we do to make sure our families are receiving the best policies. I think it will first help to give you a little bit of background about the field of genetic counseling in general. We sort of classify ourselves into one of 2 buckets, a traditional genetic counselor role or a non-traditional genetic counselor role. The traditional role is what you might think of when you would see any specialty healthcare provider. You're going and meeting someone in person, you're sitting down with them to get the medical information and to have that referral. I always pictured myself as a traditional genetic counselor, meeting those kids, seeing those families in person and helping them. And that's what brought me to the state of Utah. I took my first job at the University of Utah and Primary Children's Medical Center. I was there for about 2.5 years and I loved my job. I met probably 8 to 10 new families a week, all who had a child with some sort of a special healthcare need. And I loved the people I worked with. I mean, they were really nationally and even internationally renowned geneticists and genetic counselors. And while all of those things were working, while I felt really satisfied in those roles, I began to hear some of the same stories from families over and over, and they frustrated me in a way. In summary, what they would say is, I don't know what's going on with my child. We've been sent to see this genetics provider and I don't know why. I'm not sure how this fits in. What is the point of the genetics service? I'm worried that my child is having seizures or has a heart defect or has autism. How does this fit in? And most of the time they're on a wait list to see that geneticist for several months. So that's a lot of time they aren't getting answers. And I just felt like there had to be a better way, and Lineagen provides that better way. What we do here is we reach out, we provide support and education, not only to the families, but to their primary healthcare providers so that they feel like they're getting more out of that genetic specialty visit. What is the reason for it, and how does it fit in with their child's day-to-day life? So a day in the life of a Lineagen genetic counselor, obviously it starts with walking through that door and I just feel an energy here all of the time. It just feels like everyone in this company is dedicated to helping families who have a child with autism spectrum disorder or delay. We all really care and we believe in this company's mission, and so that makes it easy in many respects. What I will typically do during the day is be on the phone with families whose doctor has suggested the First Step DX service for them. I will give the families some background information, starting with what in the world is a genetic test and why is it being done or being suggested for your child. I let them know what it involves, how long the process takes, the implications of the testing, and talk with them about their thoughts. Is this something that they feel is appropriate and desired for their child? We want the families to really feel like they're part of that decision-making process, and as genetic counselors we provide very client-centered care to them, involve them in that decision, make sure they know why they're having a test done and what those results are possibly going to look like. I may also be on the phone with the ordering physician from that family who may ask me questions about what the discussion entailed with that family. You know, how was the family feeling emotionally? Were they ready to have this test at this time? Also, I may speak with a doctor before they recommend a certain family. You know, is this child appropriate for this test? I think there are a lot of primary care providers out there who graduated from their training programs before genetics was really on the radar. And with the Lineagen genetic counselors, they can pick up the phone and call us and, you know, be comfortable asking that question. Let me tell you about this child. What do you think? Is this the right test for this child? And given our professional ethics of the National Society of Genetic Counselors, we will provide really straightforward answers to them. You know, we won't do any inappropriate testing. We will make sure that the results of this testing are delivered in a way that's really sensitive and is helpful, is clinically actionable for the families. I also spend a lot of my time getting the result from the laboratory, which usually is probably a paragraph, several sentences about what was found, and it's all written in a lot of medical jargon. So myself and Mallory and Megan, the rest of the genetic counseling team, we will turn that paragraph into something that's accessible by the parents and the pediatricians who maybe don't have that genetics background. We really distill the complex genetic information into something that makes sense, that they can use and that they can understand. You know, people ask me all the time, what you do sounds so difficult. How do you do this? And it is really difficult information for families to hear. It's difficult for them to talk about, but I think that they feel comfortable with our model and with who we are as counselors. We really make an effort to build that rapport and get to know them. And some of the drawbacks of being in this non-traditional role is obviously that we can't see that family. I can't reach out and touch that mother's arm when she starts to cry. But what I can do is be there as a listening ear over the phone, and I think the phone model that we use really facilitates that in a lot of ways. Here you've got a mother and a father. Sometimes we're able to conference in grandparents if that's what they want. They can tell us when they want to have this conversation. Maybe after they've put the kids to bed, maybe after they've dropped the kids off at school in the morning. They can sit in their favorite recliner chair with a cup of coffee and have an honest conversation where they know someone isn't looking at them, possibly judging what they're saying. They really feel free to tell us things like, is this my fault? I feel like this could be my fault. In the world of autism spectrum disorder, that's something that many mothers were erroneously told, and I think that stigma has unfortunately persisted in a lot of ways, and even very rational parents who are highly educated still ask those questions or say, thank you for telling me I wasn't the reason that my child has autism. It helps to hear that from someone else. So I think we do get into some really sensitive conversations that don't happen as readily in person. Lineagen is the only company I'm aware of that involves these specific pieces of the integrated service. There are some genetic counselors out there who provide their services over the phone, but they may be linked to a specific clinic. There are also some laboratories who will bundle 2 or more genetic tests that are appropriate for a given patient population. But I don't know of anyone else who is really combining the 2 of them together, the bundling of the test with the genetic counseling. And also, as you may talk about with some others, we go above and beyond in the sense that we really take a lot off the physician's table as well. You know, pediatricians are incredibly busy healthcare providers. I think the average is they get 12 minutes with each child. And you know, if a doctor is going to focus on really high quality care for that child, it's difficult for them to talk about billing and paperwork. And Lineagen takes care of those things so the doctor can focus on the patient. So we are the only company I know of that's providing that entire suite of services. The Lineagen First Step DX integrated service really includes three main components: genetic testing, genetic counseling, and comprehensive reporting. So this is the Lineagen result binder. It's, as you can see, it's pretty substantial. It has about 10 different sections and about 50 pages altogether. So it is quite an extensive piece of work. And in my mind, this represents a number of things. It represents the investment that the family has taken in their child's health care. Genetic testing is something that is very important for children with autism spectrum disorder and delay, and the results of this are going to be meaningful for many, many years to come. It also represents that the family has taken a step. They've taken control in some way. They've been a partner in their child's health care, and they're helping make the decisions that are going to hopefully change their child's medical management and improve his or her quality of life. And so many times I'll talk to a family who's had genetic testing in the past and they don't remember what was done and they don't know quite the details of those results. And so when we send this binder, we know we're sending them something that they're going to understand, that's going to mean something to them for years to come. So just to kind of give you an overview of what's in this binder, we have a physician results section that really includes the meat and potatoes that comes from the laboratory itself. It is, again, written in medical jargon. This is something that the that the physician would expect to see when ordering a genetic test. However, the remainder of the binder is written specifically for families and for physicians who lack that genetic training. We break it down into sections. So, for instance, what is Fragile X syndrome? How did this happen? Can this happen again? Who else should be tested? So we really write the sections keeping in mind questions that families would have if a child had this particular diagnosis. Then we also have an entire section that has pictures we've developed here in-house. You know, genetic testing is a very complex science, and when I'm on the phone with a family, I may say, let's turn to page 27 in your result binder. Let's look at this picture together. And I think that really helps solidify some of the more complex genetics topics. It also is one way to help us get around some of the barriers that come from a non-traditional model. If I was with a family in clinic face-to-face, I might pull out a piece of paper and start drawing something for a parent. But I don't have that luxury over the phone, but if I've already sent the family a binder with the pictures that I think I'm likely to use, we can use this as a tool to really help with that education piece. There's also a lot of information regarding support systems, different groups that are devoted to maybe autism, maybe a specific diagnosis that's come from our testing. We want to let the families know that there are others out there who've walked in their shoes that they can contact on a long-term basis. The future of Lineagen is something that excites me tremendously. It's going to give at least the genetic counseling team the opportunity to reach out and network with others who are among our professional society. We actually have a lot of people contacting us, coming up to us at conferences who are very interested in this model, in this non-traditional counseling model. So I'm already looking forward to meeting those new colleagues. Another thing that really excites me about the future of this company is the fact that we have a role in some ongoing research. We're hoping to expand what the entire medical community knows about genetics in autism and developmental delay. And because our testing is going to continue to improve, there are going to be many other specialists who are interested in this type of testing that maybe currently isn't routinely using a chromosomal microarray test. So For example, we have a lot of ordering pediatricians. We've started to see neurologists grow in their interest in this area. A lot of kids will see neurologists for seizures, but also for autism spectrum disorder, and maybe for both things. So we're starting to see new specialists pop up all the time, and I think that will only continue to grow.